My name is Cindy Schulte, and I'm 28 years old. If you asked me to describe myself a few years ago, I'd have said the steady one, the reliable one, the woman who never let the people she loved fall. Back then, I wore loyalty like armor, convinced it was enough to keep a relationship unshakable. I met Nick when we were both in college. He was 27 now, but at the time, he was this wide-eyed marketing student with a laugh that carried across the quad. I was buried in late nights of coding, chasing a degree in IT. Nick was everything I wasn't: spontaneous, charming, constantly talking about adventures and grand futures. I was cautious, structured. Somehow we fit. Maybe because where I saw obstacles, he saw possibilities. After graduation, our paths should have diverged, mine toward a stable career, his toward dreams not yet defined. But instead, they twisted together. I landed a job as a systems analyst at a local tech firm, not glamorous, but solid. Health benefits, stable pay, a foundation. Nick? Well, Nick stumbled. Entry-level jobs in marketing weren't kind to him. He hated the grind of cubicles and clocking in. I could see the frustration eating at him, but I told myself I can carry us until he finds his way. And I did. We moved into this small but cozy apartment in a quiet Midwestern town. Nothing fancy, just 2 bedrooms, worn hardwood floors, and a leaky faucet we laughed about fixing. But it was ours. I covered most of the rent, paid the bills, picked up extra freelance coding gigs on weekends so Nick could have room to breathe to chase his passions. He started a lifestyle blog about travel and self-discovery, and I became his behind-the-scenes partner, proofreading his posts, setting up the website, even covering the costs of his camera and domain. I'd whisper encouragements like prayers. "You've got this, Nick. Focus on what lights you up. I've got us." He'd smile at me like I'd hung the moon. In those moments, the sacrifices felt worth it. I still remember one birthday I'd scrimped and saved for months to buy him that camera he couldn't stop eyeing. When he unwrapped it, he actually cried, hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe, and whispered, "You're the best thing that's ever happened to me." Moments like that, they kept me going. I wasn't flashy, I wasn't wild. I was the foundation, the woman who showed up every single time. But sometimes even the strongest foundation can be taken for granted. As the years passed, Nick began to sigh when scrolling through his phone. He'd linger over posts of influencers on yachts, or couples hiking through Bali, or friends posting about concerts and trips. His fingers would hover on the like button too long, his expression somewhere between longing and resentment. "Our life is so safe," he'd joke, tossing me a sideways glance. I'd laugh it off, pretending it didn't sting. "Safe is good," I'd reply, nudging him playfully. "Safe means we're building something real." But inside, I wondered if safe was just another word for boring to him. To try to bridge that gap, I suggested we plan a vacation together. Just us. No laptops, no deadlines, just a little adventure of our own. He always had reasons to put it off: money timing. Something about his blog calendar. So I let it go. I convinced myself we'd get around to it. Looking back now, that was the first crack. Subtle, almost invisible, but cracks widen. They spread quietly until one day the wall caves in. I didn't know then just how close that collapse was. For a long time, I believed my love was enough, that holding him up meant we'd both rise. But love built on uneven footing doesn't grow at tips. And though I didn't realize it, the weight of our lives was shifting. And Nick was already leaning toward a different horizon. It started with a casual announcement over dinner. Nick twirled his fork in a plate of pasta I'd made and said almost too lightly, "So the guys are planning a trip to Vegas. Just a few days. I think I need it, you know. A break from the grind." Vegas. The word made my stomach tighten. I'd heard stories, knew the reputation: flashing lights, endless alcohol strangers whose names you'd never remember. It wasn't exactly where you send your boyfriend if you crave peace of mind. Still, I smiled because that's what I did. "Sounds fun," I told him, even though my chest ached. He kissed my hand, grinning like a boy on Christmas morning. "I knew you'd understand. God, Cindy, you're the best." That night, while he packed, I transferred extra money into his account. "Just in case you want to treat yourself," I texted him as he boarded the plane. His reply came almost instantly. "Have fun. I'll miss you. Love you, babe." I clung to that message like a lifeline. The first couple of days, he sent updates. A selfie by the pool with sunglasses, a blurry shot of cocktails, a quick "miss you" between the noise. Then the silence stretched. One evening, I stared at my phone, refreshing our messages. Nothing. When his reply finally came hours later, it was clipped "crazy night. Talk tomorrow." Tomorrow didn't come. When he finally flew back. 5 days later, I ran to greet him at the airport. He hugged me technically, but his arms felt stiff, mechanical, like he was checking a box. His laugh on the ride home sounded forced. That night when we crawled into bed, he turned away early, muttering about jet lag. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding. Something had shifted. I could feel it in my bones. Over the next week, the distance grew. Nick was always on his phone, smiling at messages he never shared, turning the screen away when I walked into the room. His answers to my questions about the trip were vague. Oh, shows and slots. Nothing special. But his eyes betrayed him, lighting up with memories he wouldn't say aloud. I tried to bridge this gap. I cooked his favorite dinner one night, creamy carbonara with extra parmesan. He thanked me distractedly, barely looking up from his phone. I suggested a movie night. He declined, saying he had blog stuff to catch up on. By the third night, the silence was unbearable. The sound of his phone buzzing on the nightstand as he showered cut through me like glass. Curiosity, guilt, desperation, all of it tangled until I reached out and picked up the phone. I shouldn't have, I knew it, but love makes hypocrites of us all. The messages were there waiting. A thread with someone named Jade, flirty emojis, inside jokes about that wild night on the Strip, photos of them at a bar, her laughing, his arm draped casually around her waist, and worse, recent texts, plans for calls, him telling her she was his spark. My breath caught. The room seemed to tilt. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. 4 years. 4 years of sacrifices, of extra hours worked, of vacations postponed, of birthday gifts saved for erased by a single trip. I put the phone back exactly where it had been and sat there in the quiet, the sound of the shower running in the background. My chest felt hollow, my vision blurred. Part of me wanted to scream, to storm into the bathroom and demand answers right then. But another part of me, the part that had carried us for years, stayed still. I waited. Because if I exploded, it would give him a way out. If I stayed calm, he'd have nowhere to run. That night, I stared at his sleeping back. His phone clutched loosely in his hand and realized something chilling. The man I'd built my life around wasn't really mine anymore. And deep down, I knew tomorrow everything would break. The next evening, the living room hummed with a false calm. Nick sat cross-legged on the couch, laptop balanced on his knees, pretending to scroll through work. I sat across from him, the TV flickering in the background, though neither of us was watching. My heart thudded against my ribs, steady but relentless. I closed my laptop slowly and said, "Nick, we need to talk about Vegas." For a fraction of a second, his face faltered, just a flicker like guilt caught in the light. Then he leaned back, folding his arms, tone sharp. "What about it?" I inhaled, steadying myself. I saw the messages. With Jade, the photos, the plans you're still making. Silence. No denial, no fumbling for excuses. Just a sigh, like I'd asked him to take out the trash. Okay, fine. Yeah, it happened. We met at a club. My friends left early. She was there. Fun, adventurous. One thing led to another. My chest burned, but I kept my voice even. So 4 years together, and you throw it away on a fling. He leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Don't call it a fling. You don't get it, Cindy. With her, I felt something I haven't felt in years. Something you haven't felt, I echoed, bitter laughter rising but choking in my throat. We've been building a life, Nick. A home. I thought we were solid. Solid? He almost laughed, shaking his head. Cindy, come on. We're like roommates. You go to work, come home, we eat, we sleep. Repeat. It's comfortable, sure, but where's the excitement? The passion, Jade and I, we have a spark. She gets me. We stayed up all night talking about dreams, about living big. She makes me feel alive. Alive. The word landed like a knife, as though my love had been nothing but sleep. I pressed my lips together, steady. So you justify cheating by saying I'm too stable, too safe. I've been supporting you, Nick, carrying us while you chased your dreams. And now stability is a flaw. His jaw tightened. He stood pacing. Don't make this about money. That's low. This isn't about you being bad. You're not. You're just predictable. And I can't keep suffocating in safe routines. Jade showed me there's more out there. Something inside me went quiet, like the storm had passed, leaving only still water. I walked calmly to the closet and pulled out his suitcase. His eyes widened slightly as he watched me place it on the bed. What are you doing? He asked, half incredulous, half uneasy. Helping you, I said, my voice unnervingly calm, even to myself. If you've already chosen this path, you should pack. Go chase your spark. He blinked. Maybe he expected tears pleading a fight. Instead, he watched in silence as I folded his shirts one by one, placing them neatly in the suitcase. My hand shook only once when I picked up the camera I'd saved months to buy him. I set it down carefully on top, like laying a flower on a grave. Finally, he found his voice, really just like that. "Yeah," I said, snapping the suitcase shut. "Just like that." He lingered at the doorway, almost waiting for me to crumble, but I didn't. I only met his gaze steady, unblinking. By morning, he was gone. The apartment echoed with absence. His laugh no longer bounced off the walls. His shoes no longer cluttered the entryway. His toothbrush, his cologne, his messy sketches for blog ideas all vanished. I sat on the couch in the silence, the faint hum of the refrigerator, my only company. My heart was cracked wide open, but I refused to let it bleed for him anymore. If Nick thought leaving would break me, he was wrong. It wouldn't break me. It would change me. The first morning without Nick was the hardest. I woke up reaching instinctively for the other side of the bed, only to find cold sheets. His absence pressed into me like a weight. For a moment, I let myself cry quiet tears into the pillow, the kind that burn because they carry every why you'll never get answered. But when the tears dried, I didn't rage. I didn't call him. I didn't stalk his social media for clues. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table staring at his untouched mug in the cabinet, his half-empty shampoo bottle in the shower, and whispered aloud, "You made your choice." Then I boxed up the remnants. His things went into storage neatly labeled, stacked in the hall closet. No smashing, no burning, no theatrics, just silence. That silence was both unbearable and strangely empowering. The days stretched. The apartment felt hollow like a shell stripped of sound. I filled it with routine. Work in the mornings, gym before dinner. On weekends, I forced myself outside long runs on the wooded trails, lungs burning, legs aching, but my head clearing with each step. I signed up for therapy. Sitting in front of a stranger on a glowing laptop screen, I spilled the parts of me I'd hidden even from myself. He made me feel like my loyalty was boring, I confessed. Like stability was weakness. The therapist tilted her head, kind eyes cutting through the fog. Or maybe she said softly, "He wasn't ready to value what you gave. That doesn't make it less valuable." Her words stuck. Week by week, the heaviness thinned. The knife wound in my chest became more of a scar, still tender but no longer bleeding. I found strength in small victories, running an extra mile, cooking just for myself, and actually enjoying it, reorganizing the apartment until it felt new. At work, my focus sharpened. I volunteered for projects I'd once been too drained to take on. Within months, my manager pulled me aside. "Cindy, we'd like to promote you to senior analyst. Your work speaks for itself." For the first time in years, I allowed myself to feel proud, not for what I did for someone else, but for what I was building for me. Friends noticed the shift too. Over drinks one night, a colleague leaned across the table and said, "You seem lighter, like a weight's been lifted." I smiled, realizing she was right. Without Nick, without the constant responsibility of carrying another person's dreams, I could finally breathe. But in the quiet moments at night, when the apartment was too still, the unfairness lingered. I'd given years, sacrificed opportunities, loved him without condition. And he'd discarded me like an old sweater in favor of a new spark. Sometimes I lay awake wondering if he was happy, if his adventure with Jade really gave him what he thought he'd been missing. Those thoughts stung, but I refused to chase them too far. Instead, I made a promise to myself I would not let Nick's betrayal define me. So I planned a solo trip, a weekend in the mountains. Just me, a cabin, and silence that belonged to no one else. I imagined the crisp air filling my lungs, the trails winding endlessly, the kind of peace you only find when no one's watching. That thought carried me through the last of the grief. And though I didn't know it yet while I was slowly piecing my life back together, Nick's own carefully spun illusion was already starting to unravel. Karma doesn't come rushing in like thunder. It creeps. Quiet, deliberate. It was about 3 months after Nick left when I got the first hint. A text from a mutual friend, Mike. "Hey, Cindy heard about Nick. You okay?" I stared at the message, frowning. "What do you mean?" Mike replied, almost instantly. Apparently, he quit his job here, packed up, and moved to Vegas to be with that girl. Full commitment. Posting all these pictures at shows, casinos, you know, the dream life. I didn't respond. Just set the phone down and exhaled slowly. So this was his grand new adventure. Neon lights borrowed, luxury fake smiles plastered online. Weeks passed, and more bits of gossip trickled in. A coworker mentioned seeing Nick's blog new posts about desert freedom and soul connections. Another mutual acquaintance said he'd been bragging about investing in some event planning venture. It was almost laughable. He'd left me stability and everything we built for a mirage in the desert. Then came the crack. One evening, Mike called outright. "Cindy, it's bad. Nick. He got scammed. That business venture, total fraud. He put in most of his savings gone. The guy disappeared with the money. Nick's stranded broke. No job, no support." I was silent, the news sinking in like water into dry soil. Mike hesitated. "He burned bridges, Cindy. Quit without notice, trashed people on his way out. Now he's got nothing." "Jade. I don't think she's even around anymore. People say she left when the money did." For a long moment I didn't speak. My mind played a cruel but honest reel, the nights I'd stayed up proofreading his posts, the extra shifts I'd taken to cover our bills, the vacations I'd sacrificed so he could dream bigger. All of it mocked as boring safe. Now the man who sneered at stability was adrift in a city that devoured the unprepared. I didn't gloat, I didn't celebrate, I just noted the symmetry. A week later, the first message came. An unknown number, but I knew. "Cindy, it's Nick. I need to talk, please." I stared at the text until the letters blurred. Then I locked my phone and went on with my evening. The next day, a voicemail, "Cindy, it's me. Things went wrong with Jade. She's gone. The business, it was a scam. I lost everything. I miss you. I realize now what we had. Please, can we talk?" His voice cracked on the last word, and for a flicker of a second, I felt the ghost of the man I'd once loved. But it passed quickly. I deleted the voicemail. Soon the attempts multiplied. More texts, more calls, long messages full of desperation. I was confused. "You were the real deal. Vegas was a mistake." When silence didn't work, he escalated. His best friend Sarah, the same one who'd cheered on his Vegas trip, called me at work. "Cindy, listen. Nick's in a bad place. That scammer drained him. He's crashing on couches, barely scraping by. He needs help. Can't you just send him something? A ticket home at least." I kept my tone even. "Sarah, that's not my responsibility anymore." She scoffed. 4 years together and you'll just abandon him." The word twisted like poison. Abandon. As though he hadn't abandoned me first. I hung up, blocked her. That's when Nick's family joined the chorus. His mother texted from a number I didn't recognize. "How dare you ignore him? He gave you his best years. Your boring routines drove him away. Now he's suffering and you won't even help. Be a woman and wire him money for a flight." The audacity left me breathless. For once I replied, "He ended us. Not my circus, not my monkeys." Then I blocked her too. The next wave of messages from Nick turned bitter. Late-night voicemails snarled. "You're heartless. I gave you love years of my life, and this is how you repay me. You think you're better than me? You're not." But desperation always wins over anger. Soon the rage softened back into begging. "Please, Cindy, I'm broke. I don't even have money for rent. I know I hurt you, but you were my anchor. I need you." Each message only reminded me once I had been his anchor, and he had cut the rope himself. And now he was drowning in the very ocean he'd chosen. The night had ended for good. The phone rang past midnight. A blocked number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something in me, curiosity maybe, answered. On the other end, a voice I once knew better than my own cracked apart. "Cindy. Oh God, finally. It's me. Please don't hang up." Silence stretched between us. My pulse stayed calm, steady. "I'm at rock bottom." Nick rushed on. "I got evicted yesterday. I'm in some rundown motel and I don't even know if I can pay for tomorrow night. No money for food, no way home. Jade's gone. Everyone's gone. I'm alone, Cindy. Scared. Please. Please wire me enough for a flight. I'll pay you back. We can talk. Maybe fix things." His words tumbled like stones rolling downhill, fast, desperate, heavy. Then came the sobs, jagged, broken, like the echo of a man who'd run out of masks. "I know I was cruel. I know I called you boring safe, but I see it now. You were my anchor. You kept me steady. I threw it away for nothing. Please, Cindy, just help me get home. I have no one else." For a long moment, I said nothing. I let his begging fill the air, the raw sound of it pressing against my chest. Once that sound would have gutted me. Once I would have rushed to fix it to carry him again. But not anymore. Because now I understood love isn't about being someone's safety net while they chase illusions. Love is about building together, and Nick had never wanted to build. He wanted to be carried. "Cindy." His voice cracked. "Say something. Anything." I did. I clicked end call. The silence that followed was the purest peace I'd ever known. The next morning, I changed my number. gone completely out of his reach. No more voicemails, no more texts, no more echoes of a love I had already buried. And for the first time, I didn't feel abandoned. I felt free. Life moved forward. The promotion at work became permanent, with a raise that let me upgrade the apartment. I bought a new desk, repainted the living room, filled the silence with music I chose. I even started dating again. Nothing rushed, nothing dramatic. Just someone who looked at me and saw stability not as a cage, but as strength. Sometimes when I run on the trails or sit with friends laughing over dinner, Nick flickers through my mind. Not with longing, not with bitterness, just distance. Like remembering a character from a story I once read someone who belonged to a different life. He had called me safe, predictable. He was right. Because safety isn't weakness. It's foundation. It's strength. It's the ground you can build a future on. And when he walked away from that, he wasn't escaping. He was losing. As for me, I won. Quietly, without shouting, without revenge, posts, or screaming matches. I won by